Good morning, ma'am.
Morning. Okay, good morning, students.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning. Good morning. Okay, welcome to this third lecture under module 2. Let's do a quick recap of the previous session. That is on, we discussed on the cloud and big data and predictive analytics, how it is used by various organizations to draw valuable insights, and software as a service, business intelligence. In today's lecture, we are going to talk about mobile business intelligence, crowdsourcing analytics, and inter and trans firewall analytics. Now, what exactly is this mobile business intelligence? Mobile analytics involves measuring and analyzing data generated by mobile platforms such as mobile sites and mobile applications. So when you try to use some mobile apps or use some mobile online shopping sites, in that case you generate some data, right? How to analyze that data in order to draw some customer insights, that will be enabled by this mobile analytics. It helps to track, measure, and understand how mobile users are interacting with mobile sites and mobile apps. Now, this can be shortly called as business intelligence in the pocket, right? Because you carry your mobile in the pocket, and mobile, it is more like a software rather than a phone that you use it for. That is why it is known for its simplicity and ease of use. So when you are traveling somewhere, if you want to shop something, or when some Amazon offers a Great Indian Sale, in that case, if you want to shop, you can do the shopping while you're traveling in metro, right? You need not stably sit at one place and do that. How that is enabled? Only by this mobile sites and mobile applications. That is why it is known for its simplicity and ease of use. It also makes complicated actions easy to perform, and the mobility they offers leads to broad-based adoption. The lot of data can be gathered from the customers by using this mobile-based apps and sites. This will have an immense impact on the business intelligence sector. Now, what is the turning point where companies started analyzing this mobile data? Here we can think of iPad as the inflection point, turning point, when mobile BI started to become mainstream. Customers started to focus on the mobile space in general and mobile applications in particular. Means they started to use mobiles, but mobile apps became more prevalent when they started using this touchscreen technology. Advent of touch-driven devices made a phone sound more like a software than being a phone, right? It is like you're carrying software in your pocket, not exactly the phone. Means it does more other things than behaving like a phone. And it became prevalent because of its power, flexibility, creativity, and innovation. The combination of touchscreen and software-oriented device is what actually has unlocked the potential of these devices. Now, what is another turning point? Another inflection point for the industry is the development and deployment of mobile applications, right? Now, lots of mobile apps are available for each and every task. What possible task comes to your mind, there is an app to serve for that task, right? Initially, it was carrier controlled to push out a mobile application as the development environments were proprietary. Means initially, if you want to develop an app, mobile app, you need to develop it according to the ideas of the carrier. And one app developed for one carrier doesn't serve the needs of other carrier. You have to develop a different version for that different carrier, right? But when app stores and efficient browsers came into picture, developers can directly go to the end user. They can directly reach the end user by just hosting their mobile apps on Play Store. Mobile business intelligence gives insights into purchasing patterns as well as ability to take some actions on those insights. Example, we can talk about mobile apps of any online shopping sites. I think you observed this one. When you try to use a website for online shopping, there you will get a notification that download our app. Why? Because rather than you shopping on a website, if you try to shop through your mobile app, they will be able to gather much more useful information to analyze the customer behavior. That is why they mainly concentrate on pushing the customers onto app shopping rather than website shopping. Now, what are the three main factors that impact this mobile business intelligence? It is the location, the GPS component and location. Then how this is useful? Say when you download some app, you might have observed that they ask you to give access to your contacts, give access to your GPS location, so that they'll be able to track your GPS location, and they will accordingly post you some advertisements. Say this week you have bought pizza at Domino's. Now they have traced your GPS location. Now next week, if at all somewhere you are around that location, they'll try to push some notifications to you, or push some messages to you saying that there is this much discount on pizza, say 50% discount on pizza, or buy one get one free. Based on that, they'll try to increase their customers and profit in the business. Now, pushing of data to the device and interaction with it is made possible based on the information we get, right? They push the data to us, and immediately we can initiate action by interacting with that data or information given to us. And also, multimedia functionality allows the visualization to be more interactive. Interesting dashboards, interesting statistics will be provided to us, which will enable us to interact in turn with these mobile apps and sites. Now, but what are the three challenges with this mobile business intelligence? Managing the standards. Managing the standards in the sense, say, encrypting the data. Say when you are shopping something online, you need to give the OTP that is provided by the bank to you when you're using the bank's debit card or credit card, right? Then that OTP will be encrypted, and your payment will be authorized. So certain standards have to be maintained in order to implement some safety measures with respect to the customer, encrypting, authentication of the customer, and many such standards have to be maintained when you are working with, when the companies are providing to shop online using these mobile apps and sites. And also managing the security of your data is very important. It should not interrupt any or it should not cross any privacy regulations. It should manage the security. And also managing bring your own device, because companies provide us some device, and sometimes we go and use our own device in the company, right? So when we are using multiple devices, productivity obviously increases. So in that case, how you manage the confidentiality of the data, that is a big challenge to this mobile business intelligence. Now let's go to the next topic, crowdsourcing analytics. What exactly is this crowdsourcing analytics? What is the idea behind this, and how the organizations are getting benefited from this crowdsourcing analytics we are going to see now. It is a disruptive business model. Disruptive means it is changing the entire scenario, how the business is being done. Process of finding wise voices of the, it is the process of finding wise voices of the crowd, and then turn the input from these sources into actionable insights to companies, right? It is something like you're new to an area and you want to know which school is the best school, or which electrician is the best person, or say which doctor treats well in that particular area. In that case, you go to some person, or you collect that information from multiple people, and based on the best suggestion, you try to follow that, right? That is the idea behind this business behind this business model. Process of finding wise voices of the crowd. Which person is more reliable in giving the information? Find out that wise voice of the crowd and then turn the input from these crowds, data given, information given by these sources into actionable insights. You follow their input given, right? And we turn it into actionable insights. This is being used by many companies now. Example is Netflix contest to create a new predictive model for recommending movies based on past user ratings. Before some days, Netflix announced a contest in order to create a new predictive model for recommending movies to the user based on past user ratings. What is the idea behind this? It is to find an opportunity to realize additional model lift, which would translate into huge top line revenue, right? Means they try to find out some expertise from the data scientists, which will provide them a lift in their model, which will also generate huge profits. So Netflix serves as an example as innovator of this crowdsourcing idea. Also strengthens the idea that any organization can't always have the best and brightest internal people to solve all their business problems, right? Most of the internal people, they try to work in a routine manner. But if any new ideas have to be gathered, they may not be always available internal to the organization. So announcing such kind of context as Netflix does, you can outsource ideas, getting ideas from people outside the organization. So it is an open competitive environment that can be created with clear goals and rules. But remember, though it is an open competitive environment, it works according to clear rules and goals. Now, this crowdsourcing is a way to capitalize on the limited resources that can build algorithms and predictive models, right? Resources are very limited. You just have to remember that experience can't be obtained overnight, right? Say if you want to obtain a PhD degree, you can't do it overnight, right? You have to do a long-term study and gain a lot of experience in that particular domain. Only then you can come to some valid conclusions about a theory. In the same way, limited resources are available to any organization. But if you want to really use the expertise, who can build very good algorithms and predictive models, then sometimes you may have to outsource that task. Competitions usually trigger the passion to bring out the best in us or in any predictive modeler. Another example we can take here is Australian firm Kaggle, which manages competitions among the world's best data scientists. Now, what this Kaggle actually does, it converts the complex statistical problems and the data sets given by various corporations, government agencies, multinational companies, and research laboratories, which they post on its website by featuring cash prizes. If you go to this Kaggle website, you can find various competitions. Those competitions are normally sponsored by some government agencies or multinational companies. By giving their data set and keeping it open as a competition for the data scientists to participate and get the best output out of them, which will be accordingly rewarded. Now, Kaggle's clients range from startups to multinational companies like Ford Motors and government agencies like NASA. And this is a win-win scenario, right? Why we call it as a win-win scenario? Here, the contestants will get access to real-world data sets, and they can just hone their expertise, hone their skills in order to analyze these data sets. And at the same time, these sponsors or government agencies which want the problem to be solved, they will get the best of the solutions from the market. This is what crowdsourcing analytics is useful for. Now, what are the types of crowdsourcing we have? Though the roots of crowdsourcing lies in technology, there are various other branches where crowdsourcing is being used. One is in crowd voting. Where do you find this crowd voting? Think for a moment. Say you see some reality shows. Vote for this person on this
Big Boss, ma'am.
Yeah, Big Boss. So you vote for this person, and based on the number of votes received, they will take it as a criteria to judge who is the winner, right? Or Miss India. In Miss India competitions, they'll post on Facebook and request the public to vote, right? And another example is crowd purchasing. If people buy, one individual buys some product and a group of people buying some product. Now, if crowd purchasing is allowed, then the sellers will show some interest in reducing the prices and selling the products, right? So crowd purchasing will provide the opportunity to get products on reduced prices. And wisdom of the crowds. Wisdom of the crowds means they analyze our social network, and in that social network, which person plays very important role, something like a pivotal point, from who is having large number of contacts and who is very active on the Facebook. That particular person can be called as wisdom of the crowd. And if at all he suggests something, he tells something to be bought, something like a celebrity. If celebrity says something, we try to listen to him than a normal person saying, right? That is why organizations try to find people who are playing a pivotal role in the network and go to them to ask them to suggest their products to other people in the network. This is called as using the wisdom of crowds. And the next example is crowdfunding. Crowdfunding, you might have seen websites like Milap, Keto, where they post some problems faced by common people, and they try to gather the funds, crowdsource the funds, so that will be used for that person to solve their problems, right? This is called as crowdfunding. Few examples are 99designs.com, where they crowdsource graphic designs, and agentanything.com, where they post undercover missions, where agents will be interested to work on those missions. I think this will interest you very much, right? You can also try to take up some undercover operations and do it in this vacation. Not vacation exactly. And 33needs.com. This is also a charitable site where crowdfunding is used to benefit some socially downtrodden category of people. Okay, let's move on to next topic, inter and trans firewall analytics. Now, supply chains have evolved to connect multiple companies and enable them to collaborate to create enormous value to the end users, right? So who are the people, which are the organizations involved in a supply chain? Say right from raw material manufacturer, then spare parts manufacturer, then assembly units, and then logistics, which will take the finished products into market to meet the end customer, right? All these organizations will try to collaborate in order to create enormous value to the end consumer. Now, enterprises are beginning to collaborate on insights across the value chain. Across the value chain, in the sense, all organizations involved in a supply chain are trying to collaborate on obtaining customer insights. Here we can talk about the example of a healthcare industry. In the healthcare industry, we can take insurance provider and pharmacy person and the pharmacy and the drug manufacturer. All these people can collaborate together in order to draw some rich customer insights, right? Insurance provider will know because they're paying to their customers medical bills and all, they'll understand how the customers are using these drugs. And these can collaborate with pharmacists, and pharmacists can collaborate with drug manufacturers to maintain optimal supply of the drugs in the market. And also they will understand which medicine is being mostly used for a particular symptom, right? This kind of analysis can be done in order to draw some valuable customer insights. And this is not necessarily limited to companies within the traditional demand supply value chain. Means not only within the supply chain, but also some external entities can be analyzed, something like social media data or their GPS locations, their public data, lots of other data also can be used in order to draw these conclusions. Example, we can say retailer and a social media company coming together to share insights on customer behavior that will benefit both, right? Actually, this is a rare combination. Retailer, say Walmart, using the customer's social media data to draw some insights on customers' behavior, maybe financial behavior or purchasing behavior, that will help to find good customer insights. Now, some companies are working on leveraging the large volumes of data outside the firewall also, such as social media data, as I said, location data, and so on. Now, what is the trend currently going on? The trend is to move from intra, that is within the organization, to inter across the organizations in the value chain, and trans firewall analytics. Taking the social media data, which is outside this value chain, social media data and location data, all these combined together, if proper analytics model is in place, actually you can analyze large set of customer behavior data. Initially, what the organizations used to do, it was a functional silo-based analytics. Silo-based analytics means they used to have analytics in place with respect to each department or with respect to that branch of the organization. But today, intra-firewall analytics is in place. Intra-firewall analytics with data within the firewall. Within the firewall means, say, one bank, Andhra Bank has different branches, right? Within the bank, it can be called as silo-based analytics. But if they use data across all the branches of that particular bank, we say it is intra-firewall data that is being used for analysis. But tomorrow, what would be the trend? How the trend will move on to? It may take a new shape of using the trans-firewall data. Collaborating on insights with other companies to do inter-firewall analytics and leveraging the public domain spaces to do trans-firewall analytics. Say in a value chain, one organization is interacting with other organizations in that particular value chain, it is inter-firewall analytics. But if it is also using customers' public data, publicly available data, such as social media data and location data, in that case, we call it as trans-firewall analytics. Now, this diagram will make it more clear for you to understand. This we can call it as inter-firewall analytics. It is within various organizations. This is intra-firewall analytics. Within the organization, what data is being analyzed, and if various other organizations involved in the value chain, if all those organizations are collaborating, it is called as inter-firewall analytics. And if you are also combining that data with social data, web trends data, retail spending data, and location data of a customer, then you are trying to combine public data also, which actually shows us how you are moving on from intra-firewall to inter-firewall to trans-firewall analytics, right? But what is the disadvantage when you move on to this trans-firewall analytics? High information to noise ratio. Because when you go to public data of a customer, you will have some extra information which may not be relevant to your problem at hand. In that case, information to noise ratio, this INR increases. So you need to keep other extra technological requirements in place in order to reduce this noise and filter out data that is actually useful and relevant for your analytics model process. And here also you can see how the value chain, health insurance provider, pharmacists, and drug makers can collaborate in order to gain some customer insights. Search engine and retailer getting together outside the value chain to get the customer insights. Here you can see how consumer social interaction can be used. Social feed data, which is outside the firewall, and click stream data, which is actually within the firewall of the organization. Both these can be combined to draw the insights. Also, customer price elasticity. What is this customer price elasticity? Up to what extent a price can be increased so that it will not lose any customers. That is called as customer price elasticity. So these price test data within the firewall and competitive prices. So when you're deciding on a price, you not only see how the customer responds to your price, but also you should see the other organizations, other companies' prices on the same type of product. Right? One second. So when a price is being decided about a product, you not only see how the price is being increased within the organization by studying the customer's behavior or customers' purchasing patterns, but how other companies' prices are also affecting your current price. Whether if other companies' prices are less, your customers may move on to other products, right? So in that case, you need to consider price test data within the organization as well as competitive prices data outside the organization. And also, what is the sensitivity to price changes in the presence of competitor pricing? That also has to be focused upon. Why? Because say if you want to change the price, how the customers will respond to it, how sensitive are the customers reacting to your price changes, that have to be analyzed properly. Now, what are the challenges in this inter and trans firewall analytics? As one moves outside the firewall, as I said, the information to noise ratio increases. Right? More irrelevant data you may come across. So you have to put in place additional requirements on analytical methods and technology in order to filter out this noise and get the relevant data for your analysis process. And also fear of collaboration due to competitive fear. Say if my data is leaked to other organization, then that will be hampered to your confidentiality, to the confidentiality of that particular organization. That competitive fear and data privacy concerns, data confidentiality may be lost. And proprietary orientations that limit opportunities. Means, say the owner's idea may be different. They may not be in favor of collaborating with other organizations. So this proprietary orientations that limit opportunities for cross-organizational learning and innovation. Right? All these are the challenges faced before moving on to intra and trans firewall analytics. But though the transition to an inter and trans firewall analytics is not very easy, soon it would become a key weapon available for the decision scientists, because you're trying to analyze large volumes of data, taking into picture every possible data set or data source. Okay, so let's paraphrase what we have learned in this chapter. We have seen how Hadoop's parallel world works and what are the important components of Hadoop, HDFS and MapReduce, and how open source technology keeps growing and with community collaboration, and how a combination of cloud and big data would be beneficial to any organizations for scalability and flexibility. and how big predictive analytics is being used by many organizations, and software as a service business intelligence. And in today's class, we covered mobile business intelligence, crowdsourcing analytics, and inter and trans firewall analytics, right? So wish you happy and effective online learning. Okay, any doubts in today's class?
No, ma'am.
Okay, everything is clear. Just go through the slides. Though going through the textbook, because most of the content is given as conversations between CEOs of various companies. So you may not understand it very clearly. So while going through that, also go through the PPT because I have picked out some very interesting points and framed this presentation. So you can go through the presentation, you'll clearly understand, right? In next lecture, we'll move on to third module. Okay, thank you for attending this class. Meet you in the next class.
Bye, ma'am.